I am an actuary.
I am an actuary.
I am an actuary.
Welcome to the We Are Actuaries podcast, where you'll meet leaders who use their actuarial powers to solve a range of problems and make a real difference. I am your host, Julia Lessing, and I'm a qualified actuary based in Australia. I help actuaries develop communication and leadership skills to build great actuarial careers. So settle in, learn from the best, and be inspired. Today we're talking about career breaks, whether we take a career break by choice or it's forced upon us. How can we make the most of our break while also setting ourselves up for a successful return to work? Joining us for this discussion is an experienced actuary, author and mother of 6, Linley Baker. Linley took a break to raise her family and successfully returned to her actuarial career after a 19-year career break. Today she'll share her steps about how to take a career break without ending your actuarial career. Linley, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
So, Linley, you and I met late last year when I was in the final stages of writing my new book, Aspiring Actuarial Leaders, and my publisher, Actex Learning, reached out to you to review the final manuscript. And we hadn't crossed paths before, but I was so delighted to read your detailed feedback and to discover that not only are you an actuary, but you're also an author.
Yes.
And so we connected after that, really about being an author. But when we started to chat, we realised that we had so many things in common. We both have fairly large families. We took time off for our actuarial careers. And when I read your book and learnt more about your story, I was so interested and intrigued to see that you'd taken 19 years out of your career and then successfully returned after that break. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your tips and stories and how you navigated that break in today's conversation.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
But before we get into that, Linley, I'd love to ask you the question I ask all of my guests, and it's this: how do you use your actuarial superpowers to make a difference in the world?
I like to use my actuarial superpowers in my family. I have relatives that have skills that are applicable all the time, like nurses and things, but my superpower is math. And so I help a lot of my family with their taxes, and they appreciate that. And it's a time to spend together. So I enjoy helping my family that way.
That's wonderful. So using your superpower of math to help your family, that's a great way to use your actuarial superpowers, Linley.
Thank you.
So we're here to talk about career breaks today, and as I said, I'm really excited to know that you took a 19-year career break and were able to come back into your actuarial career. And I can't imagine how challenging that would have been after 19 years to come into probably quite a different workplace. Can you share your tips with us about how you navigated that break and how you set yourself up for a successful return?
Yes, I'm happy to. So I had 3 loves in my life, or life dreams: math, music, and motherhood. And I chose my career in math, so I became an actuary, and I just loved the study and the work. And yet I still wanted to be a mother. So when I had 3 little kids, I decided it was time to focus all my time on them. And so I quit my job, and it was one of the hardest things I ever did. I stuttered, and I don't generally stutter because I love the work so much, but I just wanted to raise my own children myself. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, maybe I can come back. I'm not sure. So I used hope. I thought, well, I hope I can come back. And with that idea, I decided to try to keep up somewhat. So I volunteered with the Society of Actuaries, Education and Examination Committee over those years. And also sometimes I lived near a university that had actuarial programs, and I taught courses in Shanghai, China, and at Ball State University in the US. And so those helped me keep up with the changes in the profession through the education, as well as the basic knowledge, ability to calculate what we have to calculate. The thing I couldn't keep up with was the day-to-day work that you referred to. When I finally got back to work, I was thinking about, I wonder what kind of calculators they give actuaries these days.
Right.
and so I went to work my first day, and they gave me my computer and showed me my cube and gave me all the things they were going to give me. And I sat down and looked around, and there was no calculator.
No calculator.
Like, okay, I guess we use our computer for this.
Yeah.
And so I was just really, from a different generation at that point. And you can imagine, like, if your primary care physician takes 19 years off, are you really comfortable coming to see them after that?
Yeah.
It's you can be if they are still current, but just the whole idea of a long break is concerning. And it was concerning to many employers that I applied with. Everybody wanted recent experience, and that's the only thing I didn't have. So, but one employer looked at what I had done before I left and looked at the volunteer work I had done, and they decided that I might actually be a good employee if depending on how I performed. So they hired me for permanently, but it was kind of unspoken that there was this 4-month time period that I needed to prove myself.
Right.
And it was actually only about 2 months until they were happy with me, and there was no concern about is this temporary or not.
You'd proven yourself.
Right. So it helped me realize that this is possible. And that's at the point I decided I had to write my book. Don't be afraid to do what you really want to do. Reach all your life dreams, because other people need to know they can take a break too. And they probably want to take a shorter break than I did, maybe a year or two, or work part-time for a while. And many people are afraid to do that because they think it will ruin their career. It will make them look like they're not really dedicated to their job or their employer. And this message is, it can work out. Whatever you want, you can figure it out.
That's such an important piece of advice, Linley, and especially it carries more weight coming from someone like yourself who has actually taken such a big break. Because young actuaries ask me all the time, when's the right time to have a family? How do I take a break? I want to spend time with my small children, but how do I not get left behind? How do I stay relevant? And while I didn't take as long a break as you did when I was raising my 4 children, I still did take time off. And in the end, I feel like it sort of came out in the wash. I think it didn't matter that I'd taken that time off. In fact, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I had that time with my children. But I know there's often a lot of fear around taking that break and what that might mean for your career.
Yes. Yeah, and it depends on your family situation as well. You can't take a complete break if you're the only provider, but I think it's a lot more possible than people think it is. So once you get back, or when I got back after 19 years, I felt like I had to ask stupid questions. And as a relatively intelligent person, I have avoided doing that kind of thing my whole life. And some of the things that I didn't know were maybe computer related that my kids who had gone to college and not even majored in math would have known, but I didn't know. And so they just felt like such stupid questions. And some people say there's no such thing as a stupid question, but they just really felt that way to me. And so I was just talking to myself and saying, Linley, you need to ask this question. And I'm like, well, no, you don't. That's stupid. Everybody knows that except for you. I can't do my job if I don't know the answer to this question. And so finally, I decided I would make a rule for myself that I could only ask a particular stupid question once. So that means I had to understand the answer and I had to document the answer so I could remember it and not have to ask it again, because it would have felt even worse to ask the same stupid question twice.
Yeah. So to get the confidence to ask that stupid question, you made a deal with yourself that you would ask it once, but you'd really make sure that you fully understood it. You ask any follow-up questions at the time. You'd write down the answer. You'd really, make sure you understood the answer so you didn't have to ask the question again.
Right. And so I got through that, and then I was hired as an individual contributor, FSA level, but 7 months later, they needed a director, and they promoted me. And it was only like 5 months after hire that they decided about that, and then prepared for that promotion. And I realized that the skills that allowed me to be promoted were not things that I learned as an actuary.
What kind of skills?
Well, managerial skills, organizational skills. If you raise 6 children in 4 different countries, and you want to have brownies for a refreshment at an activity in February, that box of brownies has to be and you live in China where you can't buy brownies.
Wow.
That box has to be in your suitcourge in August.
Yeah. Some good strategic planning there. Some good strategic thinking skills.
Right. And organizing the children's luggage, like what do they need for the whole school year that they can't buy where they're living? And volunteering at school, at church, music festivals. You get to deal with all sorts of people and learn how to motivate them and get along and communicate. And those are the skills that a manager needs, those soft skills.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, those couldn't go on my resume at the time. I'm very organized with my 6 children.
How did you persuade a prospective employer that you had those skills without putting them on your resume?
Well, I didn't. I just got hired on my technical skills, and then I showed my soft skills.
You demonstrated them.
Yes. I hope in the future, soft skills that you gain outside of work can go on resumes, because it should help everybody. But
for sure. They're so transferable. And coming back to that sort of fear about taking a break, it's not as though you stop learning while you're on a career break. There's so much to learn while you're at home with small children or even with big children. And as you said, you learn all these other skills that are very transferable back to the workplace. It's just so it can be very valuable time as well from a career perspective.
Yes. And there are things that you can't learn. Some of them you can't learn working full time because you're just sitting at your desk too long.
Right.
So that was a happy finding after the break. And so I think that should be another reason to not fear one, because you can be, maybe you're dedicated to a cause, even if it's like elder care or something, or even a volunteer thing. And that kind of loyalty also transfers to an employer. So whatever, you probably have a good reason not to be working, and whatever that purpose is, that can really help you develop as a good employee.
Right. That's great advice, Linley, and it's so inspiring to hear. I can't imagine what it would have been like coming back after 19 years, and instead of being issued a calculator, you've been given a computer that you haven't learned how to use. So you've got the technical ability and the actuarial training, but you have new tools to use. And even in today's workplace, I think, we've got Gen AI, we've got other new tools that are coming and becoming commonplace at work. So having that time out can mean that you are sort of missing out on those day-to-day workplace skills to catch back up on when you come back. But it's been really interesting to hear your story. So to sum up for our listeners then, if people are thinking about taking a break, what are the steps that you need to take to set yourself up for a successful return to work through that break?
Hi, I'm Bill Morella, CEO of Actex Learning, and I'm excited to introduce our latest publication, Aspiring Actuarial Leaders, the Modern Manager's Toolkit by Julia Lessing, a qualified actuary and executive coach with over 20 years of experience. This book is packed with practical strategies, real-world insights, and expert guidance to help you navigate the challenges of modern management. Whether you're a new manager or aiming for executive leadership, this resource will equip you with the skills to thrive. Get your copy today at actexlearning.com and take the next step in your actuarial career.
I think there are 5 steps. And the first one is the most important, and it is plan your break. So you look at your family finances, you look at your career, how far have you gotten, and you start to strategize, how could it work? If you want to work part-time, you look at, what's the new cost of daycare? What's the new cost of commuting? What's the income we have? Does it cover our mortgage or whatever? You look at all those things. And then you also look at like how long a break you might want to take. There are times you could make a deal with your employer. Okay, I'm going to take 2 years off. I want to come back full time. And if they love your work, they'll probably say yes. It's going to be a lot less risky to them than some stranger in 2 years. Mm-hmm. Or even a longer break, you could still try to leave with good relations. Say, I'm hoping to come back here and after my kids get older, and let's kind of keep that in mind.
Yep.
And that can also work. Or if you don't like your employer, you can, if you're sure you don't like them, you can make a clean break, but you'll want to stay connected with people in the profession. Mm-hmm. Maybe go to a quarterly actuarial meeting in your city or something so that people are still aware of you. Mm-hmm. So you want to plan, how are you going to leave your current job?
Yep.
The second step is a soft skill. It's courage to start your break, because a lot of times people make plans and they just never do it. Mm. And they think it's just too hard, too many unknowns. And that fear is something I'm hoping people can overcome somewhat with my story and my book, to know that other people have already done it. It can work. And so that should give people more confidence.
They have the courage to take the break.
Yes. The third step is staying current while not working. Mm. And that might sound impossible, but it's not completely impossible. Like I said, I volunteered for the education program, and I also taught at some universities. And that fact helped my prospective employer view me as someone that was always interested in the profession. Mm-hmm. In fact, at my interview, one of the VPs who was interviewing me said, "So you've made a 19-year investment in returning back to work." And I said, "Yes." I thought he made more sense of my resume than I did. Like I worked so hard on it, but that was a really good way to put it. And when they realized that, they could see, my permanent dedication to the profession, even though it wasn't permanent corporate actuarial work. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it really matters what you do to keep current, but that you do something. Mm-hmm. So you can teach at a local college, you can write articles for actuarial magazines. I mean, whatever you like to do within the profession, there is something that you can do. Mm. And I just think if I hadn't done anything, I couldn't come back. Mm. And so keeping current somehow, and you don't have to be 100% current, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm still expecting a calculator.
But staying current in terms of staying connected with the profession and doing things that are related to actuarial, yes. Whether that's volunteering or writing or teaching or some other kind of volunteering or activity that fits into your day-to-day life during your break.
Yes. Yep. Right. And you'd probably find it enriching to stay connected because you spent your adult life pursuing being an actuary, and you do it all day, every day, and you enjoy it. And so it might be nice to have some opportunities to think about and do actuarial things and not just be focused on, little children things.
For sure. Particularly when you're having those first babies and you've got small children, and it's nice to have that adult connection as well. So if you've got an opportunity to connect with some actuaries or some colleagues or peers, that might also be quite nice and enriching, as you said.
Yes. So step 4 is courage to resume your career.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is also a tough one because you'll probably have self-doubt. You compare people to yourself to the people who've been working and like constantly, and you'll think, well, I'm not them. And what you need to remember is that you don't need to be them. You need to be your best you, and you have something to offer, and you should be able to find a job if you've planned well.
That's such great advice. I imagine when you come back and people you were working with before have maybe been promoted, or all of a sudden you're reporting to someone who's much younger than you, that can be a bit daunting and make you wonder, how you'll fit in that new world.
Right. But you might think, well, but that can be temporary, or it can just be, you can be happy with it because you're happy to have the job. Yep. When I first went back, I reported to an ASA, and at first it didn't feel like that comfortable, but he was actually a really good first boss for me because he was very technical.
Right.
And so that helped me catch up technically.
Yeah.
And so it can all work out.
Yeah.
You just have, when you get your first role back, you can think of it just as a stepping stone. And just be happy to be in the door, show them what you can do.
Yeah.
And then things can take off.
Yeah. Great. So courage to return. That's a great step. What's the fifth?
And the last step is resuming your career. So you actually show up.
Yeah.
You get your book, your materials, you ask your stupid questions.
Yeah.
But you also ask intelligent questions, and you try to understand things that have changed since you were there, either with the company or the industry, and offer ideas. Like I offered an idea about testing models that came outside of actuarial science to help us improve our testing. And my boss's boss really liked that. Because you're thinking outside the box, you have broader experience than the people who have been here. And he said, sometimes actuaries think that actuaries are the only smart people in the world. And we're not. I mean, we're smart, but there are other smart people. And if we learn from everybody, then we can get to a better place. And so as you resume your career, you need to be diligent, thoughtful, and remember, it's just a temporary transition back. It will be hard at first, and it'll just get easier and easier until it feels natural again.
Yeah. Find your new normal. Fantastic. So, okay. So first step is to plan your break. Do what you need to do to really prepare for that and think about the finances and the logistics. Second is to have the courage to actually take the break. Third is to stay current while you're on the break, stay connected and volunteer and do things that fit in with your day-to-day routine on your break. Then having the courage to go back, even though it might feel uncomfortable and you might have that self-doubt, and then actually resume your career and ask the silly questions and also ask the intelligent questions too. Sounds like a very great 5-step process for successfully taking a career break and then re-entering the workforce, Linley. So thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
I'd like to finish today's interview with one question, and it's this. Linley, what's your top tip for actuaries considering taking a career break?
My top tip is to erect a virtual antenna in your head for the things you love to do, like your life dreams. Mine were math, music, and motherhood. And so when I was focusing on motherhood, I had my antenna up for actuarial science. And that's how I got to be the first actuarial professor in the People's Republic of China in the 90s, because they didn't have any actuaries there. And I was just there with my family, and they needed an FSA to teach the actuarial specific mathematics. And so if I didn't have my antenna up, I would have just been oblivious, and I don't know what they would have found, but that was a really key thing in helping me get back. And so just trying to pay attention to opportunities to do your work and opportunities to do your love, regardless of what your current focus is. And then you'll have a richer, happier life.
Oh, I love that. So holistic and really considering not just our career, but our life and our life goals and dreams. Thank you, Linley. It's been wonderful talking to you today. And we'll link to your book. And I know you've got a new book coming out as well. We'll put links to those in the show notes. And we'll also put some links to your LinkedIn so that people can find you if they've got questions for you too. But thank you so much for sharing your tips and steps around having a successful career break with us today.
You're welcome, Julia. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
So there you have it, real life stories and practical tips from a leader using their actuarial superpowers to make a difference in the world. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to get in touch, subscribe, leave us a review and share it with your network. You'll find details from today's interview in the show notes below and on our website www.guardianactuarial.com.au. Until next time.